Welcome to episode 3 of the Magnum Rewatch podcast. I'm Graham Stark.
And I'm Kathleen DeVere.
And we are here to tell you all about episode 4 of the show. This is going to be weird because every single episode is going to be one episode off.
Yeah, until there's another two-parter, which I'm sure there is.
Then we'll be even further off.
Well.
Episode 4, Thank Heaven for Little Girls and Big Ones Too.
Oh, my.
This was the Christmas special.
Yeah, it aired on December 25th, 1980.
Yeah.
Before any of us were born.
One of only 2 Christmas specials in the whole show.
Really?
Yeah. The next one, I think it's in season 5. This was part of the trivia for this episode. It's called Operation Silent Night.
Oh, my. Well, we can look forward to that in, a year and a half?
I think so.
When this podcast catches up?
Yeah, some people were like, actually had someone on Twitter. This is the first episode we've recorded since we launched the podcast. So this is the first time we've had feedback. And generally, people are really liking the show, which is great. But I had someone say, hey, this is a really cool idea, because they weren't just familiar with Rewatch podcasts. Can I suggest another show for you guys to do? And I was like, that sounds great. Get back to me in 2017.
Yeah.
2018?
I don't know. It was a long time. Mm-hmm.
We open on Higgins sort of admiring a painting in the main house of the Robin Masters estate, intercut with dark, shadowy footage of someone sneaking around in the wine cellar. It's probably meant to look like, who could this be breaking into Robin Masters' house, except that they have really hairy arms. So
it's pretty obvious it's Magnum.
It's not really a secret. Also, there's a Christmas tree in the main room by the mantelpiece.
There is, and it is resplendent with presents underneath.
Yeah, whose presents are those?
Who is giving them? Who is getting them? This is apparently Robin Masters' estate, but he's never here.
I assume.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
You never see Robin Masters.
Yeah, I assume that I sort of picked up on that was going to happen, be a thing that Robin Masters is never there. Mm-hmm. There's other characters like this, usually husbands or wives of people in other, in sitcoms, like in Frasier, you never saw Niles's long.
Well, it wouldn't have been
insuffering wife. They
can't make fun of Maris's various physical defects and overbite and wide set eyes and stuff like that. If you then have to see this actress, anyhow.
Yeah.
This isn't the Frasier Rewatch podcast.
But my question is, did Higgins just do all of this? Did he just find and wrap all these presents because there should be things under the tree? How seriously does he take his job?
I feel like maybe there's just a box that he opens up and it's got all these pre-wrapped presents like malls decorate for Christmas. They have all the presents.
That sounds less insane. That's good.
I mean, that's probably what happens.
Probably.
I have something to back up this theory later too. So
of course, Magnum's trying to steal some nice wine. Weirdly, Zeus and Apollo were in the basement. And as he asks Higgins, why are Zeus and Apollo in the basement? To stop you from stealing the better vintages. He's like, until Higgins says, you can only have the vintages I select for you, and hands Magnum a bottle, which Magnum looks at and says, October? And they have a nice exchange, which is Higgins says the wine cellar is for the use of Robin Masters' guests, and Magnum says, well, I'm a guest, and Higgins says, guests eventually leave, which I enjoyed. But they're admiring the painting. And why are they admiring the painting?
Well, the painting is a very famous painting. It is by a man named Paul Gauguin, and now Magnum recognizes this as a Gauguin, and Higgins is actually impressed. Now, I have to say, I do trivia a lot. I'm in a competitive online trivia league, and one of the questions was they showed a picture of a painting, not this painting, but a different Gauguin, and I was like, I think that's Gauguin, and I actually got that question right for the day. So, yeah. It's not that big of an accomplishment. I can do it too. But anyhow.
I didn't know it was Gauguin.
Yeah. I honestly did not recognize this one as a Gauguin, actually. But I was watching it on DVD with low res. Anyhow, so Gauguin is a French post-impressionist artist, and he wasn't really appreciated until after his death. But he painted a lot of scenes from French Polynesia, as it was called at the time, and the islands and still lives and stuff like that. But also these really famous pictures of sort of the native inhabitants of places like Tahiti and stuff. And his stuff is very, very collectible and extremely expensive now. The one that we're looking at is actually not in a private collection. It's actually in the National Gallery of Scotland. The name of the painting is Three Tahitians, and here's the the description as per the National Gallery of Scotland. 3 3/4 length figures stand out against a vivid, colorful background. 2 women flank a young man seen from behind. They may be offering him a choice, possibly between vice, symbolized by the apple, and virtue, symbolized by the flowers. This suggestion ties in with the allegorical character of many of Gauguin's Tahitian paintings, in which ideas from different cultures are fused together. So anyhow, this painting was completed in 1899, and it was presented to the gallery by Sir Alexander Maitland, who is a baronet, in memory of his wife Rosalind, and all of that happened in 1960.
Do you feel like the theme of the painting is at all relevant to the theme of the episode?
Possibly. Now that I've read that.
Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah.
If I can pull the Gauguin trivia even further back to Magnum.
Yes.
There's a painting in Robin Masters' guest house where Magnum lives that's seen throughout the run of the series. That's actually a combination of 2 other Gauguin paintings.
Really?
Yeah, it's a combination of Varumati and When Will You Marry? And it was created by the Magnum PI prop department.
Wow. So somebody in the prop department really likes Gauguin, I bet.
Well, I assume that they said that Robin Masters likes Gauguin.
Yeah. But just for reference, if you wanted to buy a Gauguin, looking at some of the last auctions that went through Christie's, Nature Morte et Fruits et Piment, God, I can't speak French at all, sold for $12.3 million. A landscape called Le Vallon sold for £6.4 million. Tefer Himini, bracket La Maison des Champs, sold for $8.4 million. So Robin Masters has some serious cash to throw around if they're painting him as collecting a Gauguin.
So then all that class and highbrow stuff is brought crashing to earth with this week's installment of That's Racist.
Oh, God.
As the Robin Masters bat phone rings, Higgins picks it up, of course expecting it to be Robin Masters, and it's actually Rick. But Rick doesn't want to get Magnum in trouble by letting Higgins think that Magnum gave the number to Rick, so Rick instead pretends to be Magnum's laundry guy.
Okay, that doesn't seem so bad. That seems like a good plan.
By doing a Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's level, sort of like no ticky, no washy kind of, like Chinese laundry voice.
I actually made Graham pause the episode so I could write in my notes, that's racist, with like 6 exclamation points. So far we're into, 4 episodes into Magnum PI. We've had 2 episodes with some seriously racist stuff, and Magnum has killed 2 people. So we'll have to see at the end of the season whether we've been more offended or just more murdered.
Rick has a job for Magnum, or at least a woman called Rick looking for Magnum because she has a job and she wants to meet him at the state capitol building. So we cut to the state capitol building. It's a really cool looking building, actually. It's very like wide open sort of courtyard kind of thing. Really like high 60s, high 70s architecture.
It's a brutalist building. It's kind of like this upside down brutalist building where it's heavier on top than it is on the bottom. It's a really cool building.
So Magnum sits there waiting, and he's looking at, there's this group of schoolgirls. They're taking a picture of this statue, and they just keep taking pictures of the statue, and that's weird, and he can't find the woman. And then one of the girls is suddenly sitting beside him, just appears beside him. And then when he turns back to her, there's another of the girls beside him. And they slowly all just appear around him. He's just surrounded by these 5 schoolgirls of age, like, I want to say 6 to 12?
Yeah. I would say about 6 to 12.
Yeah. And then he has this episode's mug to the camera of like, what? He just looks at the camera and gives this expression of, are you joking me?
And this isn't like, in the first couple episodes, I was like, maybe that was a mistake. This, like, he makes eye contact with the camera for at least 2 full seconds.
Oh, yeah. It is a solid, like, eye lock of him going, what is happening here? The girls placed the call with Rick. They want to hire Magnum. That's weird.
Why do these children want to hire Magnum?
Well, because they're in Hawaii on a school trip. They go to a private school. It's just the 5 of them. And their teacher got the hots for some Hawaiian beach bum and left them alone. And she'll be back before they have to leave, but their headmaster is coming in tomorrow, and they don't want her to get in trouble, so they want Magnum to find her tonight so that she can be back before the headmaster arrives so that she won't get in trouble. To which Magnum responds, she should be in trouble. This is incredibly irresponsible.
Quite fairly so. Magnum is like incensed and he's like, go to the police. And they're like, no, no. And one of them says she shouldn't be punished for her passions.
Not one of them, the youngest.
The youngest.
She shouldn't be punished for her passion.
Which is really funny. But anyhow, so Magnum is like, are you effing kidding me? And he's not super into this idea, but he's also so not into like leaving these kids by themselves. And apparently,
like, what's he supposed to do? Be like, I'm not taking this case, goodbye, and just leaving 5 schoolgirls
who have checked out of their hotel, they tell him, and they're going to use their refund, the sort of check-in deposit, I guess.
Yeah.
How did they get it? They're children, to pay his fee to find their teacher.
Yeah. And so he's like, okay, sure, it's Christmas. I'm not going to abandon you outside. Although it is really nice weather because it's Hawaii.
Yeah. But I mean, still, I feel like even if it wasn't Christmas, Magnum would be like, oh my God, I'm not leaving you alone.
Yeah. So Higgins is less enamored with this plan because now he has to deal with 5 little girls. And he's like, okay, like Magnum eventually convinces Higgins, it's Christmas.
They have nowhere to go.
They have nowhere to go.
They're children.
Yeah. And, eventually manages to convince Higgins to let them stay. So Magnum goes out looking while Higgins has to basically like play.
Babysit.
Yeah, basically babysit for these 5 girls who turn into, like, immediately as soon as Magnum's gone, they just turn into little hellions.
One of them feeds gumdrops to Zeus and Apollo.
Right, so they start going...
And it's so cute. And one of them is, like, picking up all the presents underneath the tree, and then, like, Higgins grabs it back from her and just, like, drops it on the ground. It makes a very hollow thud, which makes me think that they're just decorative presents that he hauls out for this time of year.
One of them pokes the Gauguin painting to, quote, feel the brush strokes, which is a weird thing to say for a 10-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
And that this, of course, sets off an alarm that's on the Gauguin, which Higgins walks over behind a curtain and turns off and is like, don't do this, all of you, up to the second floor guest quarters, go to bed, just get out.
Yeah.
So
interestingly, he says you are confined there unless you need to go to the bathroom, and it's at the end of the hall. I feel like in a modern mansion that the bathroom would be in connected.
Probably. So they go upstairs. The girls, they all go to one room, and they're like, okay, great, this will be perfect. Magnum's out of the picture. We know where the alarm is. Let's call Mother Goose or whatever. And they, like, phone someone on the phone there, and they're like, we know the lay of the land here. We've got everything taken care of. We've exhausted Higgins. He'll sleep well. And it's like, holy crap, are these girls running a scam?
I mean, they're obviously running a scam, but they're really good at it.
They don't look old enough.
Sociopaths.
They don't look old enough to like say the words that they're saying. It's a little unbelievable.
Well, I feel like the ringleader, like the 12-year-old, seems like she could come up with some of these things.
I don't know. I feel like this is actually my biggest problem with this episode is the girls, because it's fine when you have like a group and there's one girl who like talks way above her age, right? It's like it's a different thing. It's like, oh, she's like super smart or whatever, and I get it, but they all do. They all talk like they're in their 20s.
Yeah, but they're all rich, precocious girls who go to a private school, so of course they're like well educated.
I guess
it's kind of a plot hole.
It's
not great.
That's not a plot hole. That's just
unbelievable.
It's a sort of weird characterization.
Yeah, it takes you out of the episode a little bit. Anyhow, so these kids are running some sort of scam, and obviously they're after the Gauguin.
Yeah. So then we see Magnum. He calls in some help from TC, asks TC if he wants to go to dinner, because he literally because he needs some muscle. Though TC does not know this, and they arrive at the same crappy, seedy Hawaiian downtown street that we've seen every time we need a seedy Hawaiian downtown street.
Which makes me think that most of Honolulu is actually really nice, and this is literally the only crummy, seedy street that they have to work with.
It's the same bar that was in China Doll. They go into the same bar, and TC's like, why are we going here for dinner? And Magnum's like, it's fine. We're just going here for a moment, just a sec. So they go in. They get some information from the bartender. Because the girls gave Magnum an address, right? They're like, here's what she looks like. Here's what the guy that our teacher ran away with looks like. And here's an address from her stuff. This is all we know, right? Like, they're giving him leads. So then he goes to the bar. He gets the information. The address is actually upstairs from the bar, and it's like a boxing gym. And so he and TC go up there, and they're looking for, this blonde girl hanging out with a Hawaiian beach bum.
And the guy in the boxing gym is extremely... first the bartender phones ahead to warn the guy in the gym. And then the guy in the gym is basically like, if they show up, I'll tell them you had to leave suddenly in a very threatening manner. And then they try to beat them up.
Yeah, then there's like 8 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Magnum and TC not only get away, but they like kind of wipe the floor with these guys.
Well, Magnum and TC are tough Navy guys.
Yeah.
No, but Magnum does sport like kind of a bruise beside his left eye for the rest of the episode, which good on you, makeup department.
And both of their shirts get ripped up.
Yeah.
As well. But they just managed to get away.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy gets on the phone and he's like, describes Magnum, describes TC, and is like, these guys are looking for you and your girl. What do you want us to do? And like, okay, we'll take care of it, sort of thing. And then you cut back and you see there's this Hawaiian guy and this blonde woman, and he's like, some people are looking for you or whatever. And I'm like, wait, if the kids are trying to get Magnum out of their hair to steal this thing, then why is their story true? That's weird. So TC's upset, understandably. He gets out of the car because of his totally justifiable rage. And will not go to dinner with Magnum, even though Magnum offered that he would pay and they would go to the Blue Lagoon, wherever that is.
I mean, I imagine it's good and fancy, or maybe it's one of them Brazilian all-you-can-meat restaurants.
And he says in the narration, if TC wouldn't even go to the Blue Lagoon, I know he's mad at me. So TC walks away, and a car starts following him.
Uh-oh.
Not Magnum, but starts following TC.
Magnum, meanwhile,
decides that all the leads the girls gave him are great ways to shorten his life expectancy, so he starts following his own leads because he's actually a private investigator.
Yeah, he's actually got really good instincts for this kind of thing. So he goes to the hotel that they checked out of, and there is a guy behind the desk reading
a Robin Masters novel.
Yes. And Magnum attempts to bribe him for some information.
Apparently everyone in Hawaii is a scumbag. Like, this is the third person he's bribed for information this episode. Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, you're a hotel clerk. What's with the like, maybe for $5 more, I can give you a little bit more information. And it's like, what? You work at like the Holiday Inn. Like, maybe it doesn't pay well, but is there not any corporate concerns with this? Seems very silly.
And after $15, which is a lot of money, Magnum finds out this lady that he's been looking for all over town is just in her room.
So Magnum goes up to the room, knocks on the door. She's there, opens the door. Her name's Linda. And it's not the blonde woman that we saw hanging out with the Hawaiian guy that the boxer called.
No,
it's a different woman.
Completely different lady. They don't even look that similar.
No. And he explains the whole story. And apparently, this is something the girls do a lot. They're like, she's like, we were at a thing in upstate New York, and they said I ran off with a cab driver. We were in some other place, and the girl said I ran off with someone else locally appropriate. Apparently, this is like a thing that they do.
They're rich brats.
Yeah.
Is how she describes them. And so Magnum's like, good, let's go. Let's get you reunited with these children. She tells Magnum that they told her that they were going out to dinner with the governor's daughter and even had a limo pick them up. So apparently this is like some sort of long con they're in on just to do this. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And Magnum is fairly suspicious immediately, actually.
Mm-hmm. And she gets a phone call and then says, she just says like, no, Nancy's not here or something, and hangs back up. And Magnum's like, that was a weird phone call. Mm-hmm. And then you cut back to Nancy, who's one of the girls, hanging up the phone as all the other girls are around them. And they're like, is that a go? I think that's a go. All right. Operation Go Time. Yeah. So now we know that Linda and the girls are in on this together.
They're a little bunch of they're a little art thief group. They're art thieves. Are they? Maybe. We'll find out.
Who knows? So they're driving back. Magnum's like, is my driving bothering you? And she's like, no. He's like, oh, okay. You just seem nervous. And she's like, no, your driving's fine. He's like, oh, okay. I'm just wondering because some people don't like being taken for a ride. And you're like, do.
And meanwhile, the Linda in the front seat's basically doing one of these like collar tugging cartoon moves. Magnum is visibly even more impatient at this point.
Yeah, so they go inside, and lo and behold, they catch red-handed the 5 girls stealing the Gauguin painting.
Yeah.
So, cut to Magnum and Higgins are are there in the living room. The painting's put back. All the girls are there. Linda's there. And she explains the whole thing, that she is a teacher. She's an art teacher. She's been an art teacher for years, but also she authenticates paintings. And an art collector that she works with got her to authenticate a fake copy of The Three Tahitians
So he could sell it to Robin Masters.
and keep the original.
Yeah, so basically, so he could scam our Masters.
Yeah. Linda says that she had a change of heart about this, and what she was actually trying to do was to sneak into the Robin Masters estate and replace the fake that he had purchased with the original out of the kindness of her heart.
Higgins is extremely skeptical,
Yeah.
but then because Higgins knows about these kind of things, he actually looks at the painting when they have rolled up, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is the original. That is a fake," which corroborates their story. Like
Yeah.
Higgins is just as surprised as Magnum, but still really angry and is like, "Okay, we're still phoning the police."
Yeah. How many times in the scene do you think Higgins is like, "Look, we're calling the cops"?
Because that's the sensible thing to do.
Yeah,
Like
and
at least 5.
Linda freaks out about this. She's really insistent about not wanting to be reported for a literal crime.
I mean, she did technically do a crime.
She absolutely did a crime, but she doesn't want the girls to be brought into this because they're so young and innocent, and also their fathers are really powerful.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's probably fair.
I guess. So they're like, I think in exchange for some more of his dwindling rights on the master's estate, Magnum convinces Higgins to just like, look, we've got the painting. We also have the fake. Let's just let them go. They can deal with their own problems on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Magnum gives up all rights to the wine cellar at that point.
That's true. So Linda and the 5 girls get back to their hotel, and they get into their hotel room, where waiting for them
Bum, bum, bum.
is a guy who looks like a cross between Orson Welles and Burl Ives.
Yeah, he's not exactly threatening.
No, he's a big, sort of bearded, affable-looking dude with like a Dom DeLuise cap.
And like big aviators and a cigar.
And a gun.
Well, yeah, that's the most relevant part, probably.
And basically tells them to freeze. And it's he's
the art collector.
He's the art collector who sent her to do this. I actually just found out some
Who is that guy? He has literally. This is a non-speaking role for him. Oh no, he says one thing.
He has like 2 lines. Yeah. Jim Demarest is famous in Hawaii.
Really?
Yes, for his role on the KGMB children's show, The Checkers and Pogo Show.
Oh, that classic.
Which ran from 1967 to 1982. Long-running show.
So they get like a beloved children's host to play this role?
Now, he played Mr. Checkers, number 3, on the show. It went from 67 to 82.
I mean, that's a long time.
Right? And I believe there were 4 Mr. Checkers. He stopped playing the character in 79. So he was no longer...
So he'd retired.
Yeah, so he was no longer Mr. Checkers at the time of this role.
Okay, but a lot of people would recognize... I assume a lot of people would recognize him as Mr. Checkers?
Maybe he didn't have the beard.
Oh, he'd gone edgy after he quit being Mr. Checkers.
I guess. He still looked kind of huggable.
Very huggable, honestly. I was not buying him as a bad guy, and this is why. If you grew up in Hawaii, or you remember, was it Mr. Checkers and Pogo?
The Mr. Checkers and Pogo Show.
Send us an email. Let me know how Mr. Checkers number 3 features in your childhood memories.
So then we cut back to the King Kamehameha Club. Rick is doing a crossword. Magnum's having his breakfast. Magnum's happy to put this whole thing behind him. Rick asks him what a 4-letter word for girl is.
And Magnum says, brat.
Yeah.
And Rick's like, that doesn't fit. Magnum quips, well, it does in my book. That's a good line. It's a good exchange.
It is. Rick gets a phone call. Says there's a woman here to see Magnum. Magnum says, if she's under 16, I don't want to know about it.
Which is also pretty funny.
But it turns out it's actually Linda. The girls have been kidnapped.
Uh-oh. Presumably by the huggable Mr. Checkers.
Yeah. I don't know that I buy this.
Yeah, I don't really know. Like these girls are smart enough to put one over on Magnum and Higgins and conceivably steal a Gauguin, and then they're rounded up by one larger gentleman with a gun.
Well, if you want to hear Higgins' take on it when you cut back to the master's estate and Magnum says someone's kidnapped the girls. Higgins' immediate response is he has my sympathies.
But it's actually serious business because Mr. Checkers, who we never actually get the name of this art collector, so I'm just going to call him Mr. Checkers.
Yeah, he's just called the kidnapper in the cast list.
Yeah, Mr. Checkers has threatened to harm the girls if he does not get the Gauguin back. So Magnum is like, we need that fake, like ASAP. And Higgins is like, well, I threw it out. And Linda's like, bah! And Magnum's like, no, calm down. This is just a game that Higgins and I like to play. Unfortunately, Higgins actually has thrown it out, even after Magnum bargains with him and is like, I'll do this, I'll do that. Seriously, this is a serious thing. However, they managed to get him around to taking the actual Gauguin out of the frame to make the exchange for the girls.
Well, how are you going to rebut when Magnum's like, I happen to think that the lives of 5 girls is worth more than a painting. Or maybe you don't think that way, Higgins.
It's a fair point. So Higgins has a change of heart, and now they have the Gauguin, and they're going to go make an exchange. And they take off.
And they have Higgins with them.
Yes, because Higgins is not letting this Gauguin out of his sight. Fair enough.
In Robin 2.
Ooh.
Which is an Audi 5000. So they get to where they're going to make the drop, which is an outdoor pool kind of amphitheater-y
Yeah, it looks
place.
like where they would hold like professional swimming meets or something like that, because it's filled with seawater, but there's also stands that you can look at, but the whole thing is locked up and it's clearly not open. So Magnum does something really cool, which is take the tube that the Gauguin is in, jam it through the gate, and then in one very smooth, elegant move, climb halfway up the gate and then swing his legs over, drop down, and grab the tube with the painting in it again, which looks great. And I'm like, wow, that's hard to do.
Oh, it was smooth.
Tom Selleck is legitimately in really good shape.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can tell because he's shirtless a lot of the time.
Yes, that's true. That's part of it. That's part of the deal. TC also shirtless a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Rick is also shirtless. There's a lot of shirtless man in this episode.
It's Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
So they then leave. He leaves the painting inside, and they leave because that's the drop. They've made the drop. Then once Mr. Checkers finds out that it's there, he will then phone them and tell them where the girls are. Throughout all of this, we've actually been cutting to the girls. Turns out they are actually in danger. Linda did not make this up. This is not actually a scam. The girls are in a tunnel somewhere, and they are overheating. Mm-hmm. It's like 120 degrees, and it's only getting hotter.
They say that by noon it'll be 130 degrees Fahrenheit in there, and basically the girls will get heat stroke and die. And we go back and forth. The girls, and sort of they're sweating and miserable.
And then they start singing the 12 Days of Christmas.
Well, one does.
Yeah.
Which is...
Because don't forget, this is the Christmas episode.
Oh, yeah, this would
5
be... 5
preteen girls about to die of heat stroke in a tunnel.
I mean, so
Merry
lighthearted.
Christmas.
So
Yeah.
lighthearted.
So lighthearted.
But I'm happy to see in the episode that that one girl is singing the 12 Days of Christmas, and the other 4 girls find it as annoying as I do.
Now, Magnum, of course, has thought ahead. When Mr. Checkers comes to get the Gauguin that he's left at this outdoor pool, who should pop out of the pool but Rick with a snorkel?
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun, dun.
How clever. So Rick follows him out of the pool, sort of at a safe distance, and then jumps in his Graham.
His red Nissan 280 ZX.
Oh,
Or
how
ZX,
very fancy.
I suppose.
Yeah, I guess for you Americans. It's a ZX here in Canada.
It sounds cooler. And follows
Mr. Checker.
Mr. Checker. So that you know that they at least have a backup plan. Now, at this point, I had predicted that Higgins did not actually destroy the fake, that he had it, and when he finally capitulated to letting Magnum use it, it was actually going to be the fake, and then at the end it was going to be like, well, we let that guy go, but he has the fake and he doesn't know it, and we still have the original. Isn't that great? But then when Rick showed up at the pool, I was like, oh, they're actually really concerned about this. And of course, this guy would know if it was the fake, and he would confirm this before he told them where the girls are.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's not the case. And it turns out that's not the case. I just thought that they were going to triple, 3 layers deep of
a double cross.
Yeah.
But no. So they finally figure out where the girls are. Where are the girls being held, Graham?
They are in a civil defense tunnel inside a volcano.
An inactive volcano.
Yes, but the girls themselves do have an exchange. Like, well, this volcano's inactive, and then another girl says, I bet that's what they said about Mount St. Helens.
Now, you might be like, Mount St. Helens? You have to remember, this episode aired on Christmas in 1980. When did Mount St. Helens erupt, Graham?
I
I
thought
thought you had this prepared.
you were looking that up.
Oh, whoops. When did Mount St. Helens erupt, Graham?
Why, May 18th, 1980.
Oh my goodness, mere months earlier.
Yeah, so
So that's fresh in people's minds.
relevant.
If you don't know where Mount St. Helens is, it is, of course, a very famous volcano in Washington State. And it's actually very close to us and Vancouver Island. And I believe that people who lived here at the time that Mount St. Helens erupted said that they felt the tremors and that
It woke my dad up.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he because it was about 10 a.m. in the morning, if I recall correctly, and it woke him up, and he sort of thought to himself, "Okay, that's either Mount St. Helens, or it's one of the nuclear submarines. Either way, I can't fix it. I'm going back to bed."
That's very pragmatic of your father.
Yeah. Now, before they actually hear this, they're on their way back to Linda's hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and they get cut off in the road. And this guy jumps out of the car that forces them off the road and says, "Hey, remember us? We're the plot thread from Act 1. Get out of your car and into our car, and we're going to take both cars, and we're going to go back to my boss's place." Because it's the boxer from the gym that got in a fight with Magnum and TC at the beginning. And they take them back to their place, and there's this Hawaiian, I guess, sort of not... Is he a crime lord, or is he just sort of like a businessman with a lot of interests?
I feel like he's probably like some kind of like thuggy drug runner or something like that. If you've seen, there's this Vice documentary about like the nastiest guy in England or whatever it's called, and it's like a collections agent who also runs a boxing gym. This is the kind of guy I have in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's into some bad stuff, but he's not necessarily like, hostile. He's neutral, but he's annoyed because he thinks that this private eye has been following his girlfriend around.
So they bundle Magnum and Higgins and Linda into his living room, and TC is there. Remember how there was a car following TC? Yeah, he's been there for like a day.
Yeah, however, he's fine. They haven't like roughed him up or anything like that. They've probably just been trying to track down Magnum.
But they don't believe his story.
Mm-hmm.
And so the crime boss or whatever says, "Why are you following my girlfriend?" pointing to his blonde-haired girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Magnum says, "I can explain." Higgins says, "No, you can't." TC says, "Don't bother." And Magnum, it does explain truthfully everything that happened and how, no, the girls told me to look for their teacher. I wasn't looking for her. I was looking for this person. They're different people. Our wires got crossed. It's all a hilarious misunderstanding. I'm really sorry. As you can see, they look sort of similar. Both the girls are like, "No, we effing don't." And that's what's up. And the crime boss is like, "Do you think I was born yesterday? No. Why are you, why are you following me? I find like stuff in my house. I find things missing. I start losing business. Like, what are you trying to do?"
And then Magnum tries to explain again. That doesn't work. And so finally he's just like, fine. Okay, here's the deal. Yeah, I am following your girlfriend. I was hired by her to keep watch on that guy, and points to the guy who roughed him up at the boxing gym. And the guy in the boxing gym is like, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "Yeah, in fact, you should be doing your girlfriend a favor because she was worried about you. She thought that he was double crossing you. And that's what I've been trying to do. And geez, like,
I bet he has the combination to your safe. And the guy's like, "My God, he does have the combination to my safe."
And then the guy from the boxing gym is like, "Oh, come on, man. It was only like some petty cash. It was barely anything." And it turns out that Magnum has completely lucked into actually getting this right and has uncovered a turncoat, I guess, in this nest of vipers.
Kinda. Like, the thing is, his second in command probably wasn't even like disloyal or anything. He did probably steal some money, but it was more that he was appealing to what this guy clearly already believed.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Fine, you're right. It's all this that's happening." And the guy's like, "All right, good job, cool. You guys take off." And they're like, "Okay, we'll be going now." And so then they leave them to deal with their own problems while Magnum, Higgins, TC, and Linda take off.
Yeah, they're heading back to the hotel actually to get the call from the kidnapper to tell them where the girls are.
Yes.
Because this is, of course, pre-cell phone days.
Yes. As soon as they get the call, Higgins puts in a call himself to the police and is like, "I want to report a crime." Because he's like, "Good. If we know where the girls are, great. Someone stole this freaking painting, goddammit."
Yeah, and I mean, I still think it's fair that a crime has occurred. A crime happened. A crime has been done.
Yes.
They did crime.
And then TC picks Higgins up like a toddler and puts him on the balcony of the hotel.
Which is kind of embarrassing.
It's a little embarrassing, but it's also kind of funny. And
Yeah.
Higgins has to watch them drive away as they go to rescue the girls.
Finally.
Which they do. And they're okay, thankfully. And that's the end of them. They're fine. But now we have one more thing to do. Rick calls in. He's like, hey, I'm tracking this guy. I'm following him. He's at the airport. He's on this flight. If you're going to do this, you got to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
So Magnum and TC run armed into an airport again with a different cardboard tube to swap for the one that Mr. Checkers has.
Mm-hmm.
And they manage to catch up with him at the security check.
The extremely minimal security check.
Oh, it looks so much more civilized.
I mean, it's basically like
They've
there's just like
literally decorated the metal detector walkthrough in like tinsel and garland because it's Christmas.
Yeah, so it's like one metal detector, like less lax than it would be at a very small regional airport.
Yeah, and about 2 feet
It's like
away,
right out in the open.
Yeah. Rick is reclining, keeping his eye on things in a terry cloth shirt and
and it's like half zipped up,
like hot pants.
Oh God! Nobody's wearing enough clothes.
TC's shirt is open, and he's asking a girl at a lei stand to try and sell him on a lei. No, not that lei. This lei is not for me. I want a macho lei. Show me another one.
He's just trying to kill time till he can get in front of this guy right in the line.
Mm-hmm. And so then when Mr. Checkers shows up, TC jumps in front of his line so that he can walk through a bunch and delay the beeping, but only after Mr. Checkers has put his luggage and the painting down on the x-ray belt.
Mm-hmm.
Then Rick also distracts him, and between them, Rick and TC clog the metal detector lines long enough that Magnum, who's already through security, can swap cardboard tubes.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mr. Checkers goes through, picks up his tube and the bag, and heads to his gate, and that's the last we see of him.
Yeah.
And they have the correct Golgan back.
Yes, and then they say, "Boy, the look on his face when he sees what he got," but they never show you what he got.
I assume it's just an empty tube.
I hope there's like an erotic painting or something in there.
A drawing of a butt. They got Rick to draw something.
Oh, it's a dick butt.
Yeah,
this guy's been dick butted before dick butt was invented.
And then, of course, because everything must then get back to where it was before, Magnum and Higgins reach an impasse because Higgins says, I can't wait to tell Mr. Masters that you almost cost him his Gauguin, which he bought for 2 million marks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Deutschmarks.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm sure you won't be as welcome around here anymore. To which Magnum responds, yeah, I can't wait to tell him how your security got foiled by 5 little girls.
Womp womp.
Merry Christmas.
So
this was not a great episode.
No, not fantastic.
I didn't like this one as much as the last couple.
I give this one a 6 out of 10. It was kind of funny, like it was lighthearted and stuff.
I have no concept of what your rating scale is, by the way.
Well, I mean, the other one I gave a 7.5 out of 10. Like there were some funny parts in it, but it was kind of stupid.
Yeah, like just the whole concept of the little girls being like a highly competent art thievery thing. It's, I don't know. Apparently, there was also an episode of Hawaii Five-0 that dealt with a stolen Gauguin painting. So maybe they just liked it. Like maybe the producers just enjoyed that as a concept. Another little piece of trivia, randomly, we remember that Tom Selleck played a character for a couple episodes on the Rockford Files.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, they were going to do a crossover at one point, but it never came together.
Mm-hmm.
But it's implied that at least the people in Magnum know of the Rockford Files,
mm-hmm.
because when Rick is trying to run interference in front of Mr. Checkers, what he's doing is he's asking the guy behind him, he's like, is it safe to put this camera that I have, this like point and shoot film camera, is it safe to run this through the x-ray? Should I take this through the metal detector? I don't know what's going on. And he makes reference to James Garner from the Rockford Files, who at the time was a spokesman for Polaroid cameras. And he makes reference to him saying something along the lines of, I should have listened to, James Garner or whatever. I would have been happy with one of those more simple cameras. Right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So there's a lot of it's like the Hawaii Five-0 reference in the first episode.
Yeah. It's silly. So overall, this is a silly episode with a silly premise and a silly execution. Unfortunately, I also note that Ian Freebairn Smith is still doing the music, which is not
but
great.
you couldn't really tell because most of the music in the episode was sort of reorchestrations of Christmas standards or like Tchaikovsky or stuff like that. Because it's Christmas, right? Even though the fact that it's Christmas only really comes up to guilt Higgins into doing stuff because it's Christmas. So yeah, but soon we move to a new
Soon we replace this guy.
We moved to a new music supervisor, and we'll tell you all about him. We're very excited about it, actually,
It's super cool.
in a future episode. But for now, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Magnum Rewatch podcast. Next episode, No Need to Know.
Oh. And if you like this episode, please let us know on Twitter or send us an email. And this podcast comes out Tuesdays.
By the time you're hearing this, it should be on its own feed on iTunes. You can subscribe to just this if you want. It is also, if you're a fan of our work with Loading Ready Run, it will show up in the Loading Ready Run aggregate podcasts feed. Our ability to do this is thanks to the supporters of our Patreon, patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, which supports all kinds of different stuff that we do. So please check that out. And yeah, again, Kathleen_LRR on Twitter. I'm Graham, GRAHAM_LRR on Twitter. Let us know what you think of the show. We would love to hear it. And thank you for listening. I need some kind of Magnum-related sign-off.
I know. Does Magnum have a catchphrase?
Not really.
What about I must ask you a question?
That's not, no.
Mustache to see you?
No.
Mustache.